In the studio with me, I have a financial expert, Gerald Mwandiambira. Gerald, thanks for coming through and chatting about this. So let's talk about this big debate that exploded yesterday around the so-called black tax. ABSA coming up and trying to do something good. I think it came from a good place. Probably someone crafted it wrong. But let's begin about the concept of black tax. Perhaps for the benefit of our Africa viewers who don't understand what it is, let's begin there.
To talk black tax to our African viewers, black tax is being African.
Right.
It's looking after your extended family because they helped to raise you. And in South Africa, they've coined that term to basically say, look, these first generation of wealth creators are having to look after their parents as well as raise their own families. And this has an extra financial drain on their families.
Right.
Main reason is because we've moved away from the African type of communal living.
Right.
So now you have siblings and families staying far apart. So therefore you drive up your overheads. You're paying 2-3 houses, transport costs, and obviously it takes a strain. But to the general African populace, black tax is simply doing what you're supposed to do as a young African to support your family.
Do white people not do the tax or
black
tax thing?
There is white tax. Essentially, in South Africa, you could look at it and say, look at early retirement for white executives to put in black employees. They haven't saved enough for retirement.
Right.
They're going to have to be looked after their children. So it's really just saying that there's an additional element of financial responsibility which is going through 2 generations.
The problem is the way the black tax thing has been framed, it sounds negative.
Everything black often is coined as negative. And I think it's the word black. I don't think it should even be called black tax. It should just be a responsibility which people face, which affects their income. And it is adversely affected once you have people living in 2 different locales because you increase the cost.
Let's take it around and make it positive.
Well,
how do you handle it as a young person? You're coming into your first job. Obviously, you've got to look back. That's what we've been taught. Because I am an example of the product of black tax, if you like. When my brother started working, the first thing he did was to send me to school. And when I started working as well, the first thing I did was to look back. And so I picked up my brothers, and so they did behind them as well.
There's absolutely nothing wrong. That is the way to do it. The only way is to manage it. And I think the problem with most people is a psychological thing of not being able to say a 2-letter word, no, or to set a limit. When you have a budget, you tell the family, this is what I can afford, and that's as much as you contribute, because you ultimately need to look after oneself as well. But turning away from the responsibility and simply saying, I didn't ask to be born, that's the opposite.
But if you're black, you can't say no, you know what I mean?
It's difficult, but I think that's the only way of managing it. I mean, the only other way you could create a scenario where you turn it into a positive is where you marry it with the whole land redistribution debate, where you say the people you're supporting with your black tax, rather give them land, and what that money which was used to sustain them just for consumption becomes input material, so that you can now use that cash for them to plant things, grow things, animals, whatever it is, and actually now you divorce yourself, because that now becomes a self-sustaining economy, and then you can look after yourself. So that's where you marry the 2 concepts together.
Where do you sit on the land debate?
I think that, look, land is the only way you create wealth. Classic economics tells you that primary economy is based on land, and to the large extent the South African economy was built on land. So we need to really look at that as a positive in terms of saying, if people have the means to plant a seed and get income out of it, surely it is better than simply giving people money so that they consume for another month.
So I got a jolt the other day. Someone said to me, Godfrey, it's very important we talk about land and everything we say about it, but actually we're missing the boat. Because when you look around you, when you look around the world, the highest valued companies in the world are tech.
Well, I think it's
Apple right now approaching $1 trillion in market value. $1 trillion. I'm not talking rand. $1 trillion in market value. You look at Facebook, you look at Google, you look at all these other companies. Are we missing something here?
I don't think we're missing something. I think another school of thought is that the next world war will be around water and land, simply because the scarcity of food and resources with a ballooning global population. And what you're getting now is you've got agrotech, where you've got a marriage between the primary economy of agriculture and technology, and you're having things like drip farming, where people are basically overcoming the drought resistance in certain areas. You've got people who are growing crops on poles. and instead of having 40 hectares, you have a few warehouses and you have the same yield. So you have that marriage. And I think as Africans, because we've got a plenty supply of land, that's how we should be looking at it. So I do agree totally that tech is the future, but marry it in terms of what the world will require. Africa, to me, will remain and could be the breadbasket of the world going forward.
But how do you change the mindset of people from understanding that land is not so much about just having a piece of land that you go and you build your house on, than to look at land as something that you can use productively to actually put something in your pocket?
Unfortunately, that's a process which has to happen. That's education. I mean, if we look at our northern neighbors in Zimbabwe, they were all given land a few years ago. Nothing happened. But once people started getting more education, you're getting more activity. They're starting to produce again. And I think that has to be the process. So perhaps before you give land to someone, give them an opportunity to be schooled on the value and the opportunities that lie within that land.